Hello, everyone. Caren Glasser here, and welcome to this episode of The Passion Point. This is where we follow passionistas all around the world who are following their passion, making a living doing what they love. And today, my special guest is Stephanie Calahan, and she is a business vision, that's hard to say that, a business vision catalyst, and she is known for transformations that she facilitates with her clients. And she does this through working at the intersection of the heart and the head. I really like that. And I want to talk a little bit about that when we get into the interview. Her unique combination of right brain and left brain thinking, intuitive insight, passion, results-based coaching, and powerful questioning and strategic systemizing magic. In record time, her clients are dancing with joy. And that's what we want, right? That's what we want. We want our clients dancing with joy. So Stephanie, come on in. Welcome to the Passion Point. How are you today?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be able to talk with you today.
I'm excited too. You know, we met on Facebook and we met on social media. And for people that watch and listen and, you know, people that follow me, I'm always saying that if you're not online, you're not going to get found. And quite frankly, it's not just your clients finding you, but it's collaboration partners and it's possible business that are going to come in or lost, high school friends. However it is that you're online, if you're not online, you're not going to get found. And so we found each other in a group, I think, and we were commenting back and forth. And I love that. And I'm really happy that you're on the show today. And we always start the show with a definition of passion. And in this case, I like to use Webster's definition. And Webster says that passion is an intense, driving, or overmastering feeling or conviction. So that's what Webster says. Stephanie, what do you say? What's passion to you?
Passion for me is something that's really deep inside. At the core of my being, it's what excites me and brings me to life and gives me energy to do what I do.
And just as you were saying that, I was watching your face, and it's clear that you talk the talk, you walk the walk, because your passion, you could just see it in your face. I mean, totally, I want you to know that.
Thank you.
It's obvious that you love what you do. So let's talk about you, and let's talk about your journey, and let's go back a little bit. When did you know that this is how and the direction that you were going to go with your business? Did you just wake up one day, or when you were 4 years old, you said, I want to do this. I want to be a business vision catalyst?
That's a great question. My entire life, I have been somebody that liked to listen and liked to help. And I grew up with two parents that were teachers. So teaching and aiding and supporting people is also a part of my genetic makeup, I think. For a long time, I worked in a corporate environment. And within that corporate environment, I was what would be considered an intrapreneur. Because even though I was in a leadership position, I led at various points of time anywhere from 250 to 300 people.
Wow.
And lots of travel, and it was Fortune 100 companies that I was working with, but it's interesting because I got paid to do that job. But then there were a number of things within the organization that I was passionate about, things like effective project management that actually developed people, or I actually was part of the group that helped to lead the diversity and inclusion work that is now global within that particular organization. That was many years ago now. But those were the things I was really excited about, and it was all around developing people and helping people be their best selves. Well, I was in that corporate position for about a decade, and in 2001, at the same time my son was born, the company went public. They were privately held, and in the course of going public, the corporate culture changed. And so I went from a company that, Caren, I honestly thought I was going to retire from there. I mean, people joke that my blood ran blue because the corporate colors were blue. And I went from a place that I really, really believed in to a place that was compromising my ethics on a regular basis, almost daily. And the stress within that, there was such an incongruency and a misalignment between what I was being asked to do and who I was as a person, that I would do things like I was in San Antonio, Texas a lot with my clients, and I would be in Texas, and there'd be a break in our meetings, and I'd go into the lady room, and I'd literally get ill. I'd clean myself up, and I'd go back into those client meetings. And that's not a way to live. That's, that kind of stress is just not a way to live. And one night, my son was very young at the time. I did what a lot of parents do, and I sat and I thought, what kinds of things do I want to teach him? What kind of person do I want him to be? And I had what I call this blinding flash of the obvious, where stuff just all of a sudden became really clear to me, and I realized that he was probably going to pay more attention to what I did than what I said. Right. And that if I stayed in that corporate position that I was in, I would actually be teaching him to sell himself. Because at that point, the only reason that I was still there was because of the money. Because the paycheck was a high six-figure income with crazy good benefits. I mean, I really did get a free lunch. I could go in and get food anytime I wanted, stock options, the whole 9 yards. And I had what a lot of people would call the golden handcuffs. And at that point, that was the only reason I was staying. And I thought, oh gosh, that is just so not who I want to be.
Right.
That's not the influence and the legacy that I want to leave. And so it was at that point that I decided I needed to do something different. And so literally 4 months later, we had sold our house. I had left my job. My husband lost his job. We moved 2.5 hours south, and I started Calahan Solutions.
Wow. Wait.
Yeah.
You made the decision, and 4 months later.
4 months later, we had made
One might say you're an implementer. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I could say 4 months later, I think really there was probably 2 years of me getting that knock, I'd say on my head even, that something needed to change. So I think my subconscious had been working on it for a really long time.
Right.
And I was super blessed to have an extremely supportive husband who looked at what was going on with me and our life and how we were raising our son at the time. He worked a lot, I worked a lot, and it really it wasn't what he wanted either. And so it was a beautiful combination of everything just lining up exactly the way it should. I mean, for heaven's sakes, this was when the housing market was starting to crash, and our house sold after 6 people made offers. Like there was a bidding war on our house. So it was meant to be.
Right. So let's talk about what you're doing now.
Sure.
So you followed your passion, which that's why you're on the show, quite frankly, because you are a walking example of following your passion. Tell us about what you're doing today and what you love best about it.
Oh, I love that question. Today I work with super amazing people. I call them my world changers, although most everybody that starts to work with me does not see themselves in that way at all, because they have this inner brilliance and they're serving. I work with people that are in the service industry of one kind or another. So the work that they do is helping other people as well. And I say, I'm changing the world one person at a time because I'm helping them be their best selves. So the work that I do, and you had mentioned in my intro that I work at the intersection of head and heart. And ultimately that I say it that way because there's a lot of strategy and business strategy, operation strategy, marketing strategy that we put in place for people and their business. But you can have the best strategy and the best tactics in the world, and if your mindset is off, if there's something about what you're doing that just doesn't hold true to who you are, then it's not going to work.
Right.
And so the work that I do combines the two and helps people work on their mindset to be successful. But it's not just a mindset thing, because we have to actually put things in place in order for stuff to be successful.
Yes, exactly. And the whole concept of mindset, the Think and Grow Rich, right? Napoleon Hill. And there are people that I have worked with that actually think that if you just literally, if you think it, it's just going to happen. And that's not true. And I'm so happy to hear that we're in alignment that way. So you have to take action, right? You
absolutely do.
Think it.
Well, and I found what's interesting is when I started my business, I didn't incorporate the mindset side because I felt like that was too woo-woo. And I felt like I had to be very solid, and I had to be very, very clear on the work that I do. And I talked with a lot of gurus that pigeonholed me into this very, very small niche of productivity. But what I found when I was working with my clients is that there were things that we were setting up that were dead on for what would just make them have exactly what they wanted and be really successful financially and strategically within their business. Mm-hmm. And they weren't doing it. And I thought, okay, and so then I started slowly shifting the mind stuff in as well. And the more I acknowledged that side of me and those skills that I had, the more success my clients were having. And so I did it more, and I did it more, and I did it more, and I got to a point where I publicly say that I work on both the inner stuff and the outer stuff. Sometimes we have things from our past that are holding us back that need to be healed. And it's not like an illness that needs to be healed, but there's programming that we have going on inside the way that we think because of something that happened that we need to be able to heal in order to do the things that we know we should do for our business. And so my work just combines that to help people have the ultimate success as they define success, not in the way that I define it.
Which is so important, because my success is might be different than yours, and probably is different than yours, as it's different from our clients. So when you start to work with somebody, is there a particular question that you have people ask themselves to kind of start that journey? Or is this something that you actually say, okay, I want you to do this exercise? So how do you actually start that whole mindset thing?
It's a little bit of both. Some of my work is strategic, analytical, and logical, and some of my work is intuitive. Mm-hmm. So I do have processes in place, but I also give myself permission to veer from those processes when it makes sense. Right. So often one of the first questions that I ask, even before somebody decides whether they want to work with me and whether I decide whether I want to work with them, mm-hmm. is what's the number one thing that you should be doing to move your business forward that you're not doing?
Great question.
And that question illuminates all kinds of stuff. It could illuminate that they're shitting themselves to death and that whatever they should be doing, they really shouldn't be. Right. Or it could illuminate something that is really a good move for their business, but it identifies a block. There's something that they know will really make a big difference and they're not doing it. Okay, so let's dive into that piece first. And then I have, within the course of my work and how I do my work, I say I do leveraged one-on-one programs, which is really very different than what a lot of people do. A lot of people to leverage their business create these group programs, right? We're going to give you a 12-step something or other that you're going to buy, and you're going to go through this 12-step program. I leverage my time in my business a little differently, and I have various learning modules that I will give to my clients when it makes sense for their particular situation. They have the opportunity to do that in their own time. And then when we get together to talk, we get to go deep. And we get to really, really dive into stuff. And so the way that I've done that is anytime that I find there are 2 or more clients where I'm repeating the same thing, I turn it into what I call a transformation quick start. And that's something that I can then assign to them. And what I found is it also allows them to have an even better transformation, because a lot of the things I'm asking them about, they may need some time to think about. So rather than sitting in a one-on-one conversation with me where they're like, I'm not sure, I don't know, they can have this assignment outside of our time together where they're really thinking about it. And then when we get together, we get to get into the juicy stuff and really make some shifts for them in really sometimes some miraculously fast ways. I've had some clients tell me that they've gotten more done with me in 3 months than they have in the 3 years prior.
And I believe that. I totally believe that. What you're talking about is so important. Do you find that you learn from your students, your clients, just like they learn from you? Do you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I am a big believer that everybody that comes into my life for a reason. Mm-hmm. And some of that reason is because I have a service to offer. There's parts of me that can benefit mm-hmm. the people that I come in contact with, whether they're my clients or not. Right. But I also believe that I can equally receive from the people that I'm working with. And there are instances where my client has, almost every instance, there's something that my client knows that I don't.
Right.
And I really look to partner with my clients to help them become the best version of them that they want to be. And so, yeah, I definitely benefit from the people that I work with. And I can honestly say that one of my rules when I go to decide who I want to work with, because I do believe that in sales it should be a two-way street. You don't have to say yes to absolutely everybody that wants to work with you.
Right, right.
That's the best way to have freedom in your own life.
Right.
But one of the rules that I put in place was that the people that I work with, I want to be able to love them fully. So meaning if they have a bad day, it's okay, I'm going to love them anyway. If they have a great day, I'm going to cheer along with them, and it's going to be fantastic. And so I'm talking in a very humanistic form of love, obviously, right? There's a lot of different definitions of that word.
Right.
And a lot of people find it odd that I bring that word into business, but what I found is that once I started framing my relationships in that way, we were able to build a very safe environment. And I say we because my clients co-create with me. And we create a really safe environment, and that's why transformations can happen quickly.
And that's what sets you apart, I think, because of the way you're approaching this. I've never heard anybody say, I approach it with love, actually using the word love, and that is so interesting. What do you tell somebody that comes to you that has lost their passion, and they say, I don't even know what my passion is. I don't even know how I'm supposed to find my passion, let alone do something with it. How do you guide somebody who is really lost?
You know, the first thing I say is fantastic, which sounds weird, right? They're struggling. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, that's great. That's awesome. The reason it's awesome is because they're looking for it, right? I mean, because some people lose their passion and then they just go into this state of existing rather than living. And if you're not ready to make a change, then I can't help you.
Right.
But if you're at that point where you're like, you know, I'm just not clear, Stephanie, which is really what it's about, right? When you're not sure what your passion is or you're not sure what you're supposed to do, it just means that there's a lack of clarity.
Right.
But anytime that you have the desire to do that, there's always an opportunity to get that clarity. And so we start with a celebration to say, woohoo, okay, we're ready to get to work. And then we just start diving in. Now, I will say a lot of the clients that I work with are advanced in their business in some way, and they had a passion and they lost it.
Right. Do you think it's because they're entrepreneurs and they're working, you know, day after day in front of their computer screen, or they're not getting out? Do you think that the passion dies, or do you think it's just part of the journey?
The experience that I've had with the clients that I've worked with, when they've kind of just lost their clarity, or they've hit a plateau in their business, it's frequently one of a couple different reasons. One is that sometimes people hire advisors that don't advise them well.
Well, Stephanie, well put.
You know, I'm thinking of a client that I had that when we first started talking, she wasn't even considering hiring me. We had just gone out to grab some coffee. She was local and, hey, what's going on? And she opened up and said we had a conversation in the July timeframe, and she said, I haven't had a sale all year. And she started crying, you know, in the coffee shop. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, what's going on? How can I help you? Well, it turns out that she had hired a coach, someone that describes themselves as a coach, that was really somebody that was more of a trainer, and what I call likes to create mini me's. I don't do that. I don't create a mini me. The world can only handle one me. But in this case, the tips and advice that this coach was giving my client, as it turns out, just weren't in alignment with who she was. And so the more that she was trying to do what this other person told her to do, and this other person started guilting her and using some really ugly tactics too, to try to get her to do stuff, the worse her business got, and the worse her confidence in herself got. She's like, well, you know, this coach is like really well known and super wealthy, and, you know, other people have good results with them. Well, it really wasn't about my client and her inability to do something. It really was just, it was a misalignment.
Right.
That it was just not a good match. And so in her case, she just lost her confidence. And what we did is we took what was working really, really well, and we kept it, And then we looked at what wasn't working well and we said, okay, how do we make this in alignment to who you are and what your values are? Right. And she ended up enrolling in a few different programs of mine, but the first program that she was in was my money marketing and my money mindset and magnetism program. And within the first 30 days of that 3-month program, she had made a 5-figure sale after not having any sales. And it was really just because she was given permission to start being herself again. So that's rule number one, or reason number one. Reason number two is often because people are trying to chase too many things at once and they just get burned out.
Squirrel.
Yeah, shiny objects. And I like shiny objects. I mean, I do like shiny objects. So I have to guard against the bright shiny object syndrome myself, which I think is another reason why it's so easy for me to see in other people. And it's really easy with all the different ways that are out there now to grow your business. To think, oh, well, this one's the next one. This one's the next one. This one's the next one. And if you try to do too many things at once, you burn out.
Right.
And so often with those clients, I'm saying, I want you to stop. They're like, Stephanie, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, really, seriously, I want you to stop. I want you to breathe. I want you to do some fun stuff in your life again so that your brain can fire, new ignition, new catalyst. Yeah. And then we regroup and we pare down those things and pick the things, again, that are more in alignment with that particular person rather than just what everybody's doing. And they find a renewed joy in life because they start giving to themselves again.
Right. And they're working on the income creating jobs and things that they like to bring the income in rather than spreading themselves across. It's like, you know a lot about, little about a lot of things, or a lot about a few things, and staying focused. And that bright, shiny object syndrome, I am sure that you and I are not the only ones that suffer from that. And there is especially in the online world, where there is a new toy or a new tip or a new trick or a new platform or a new plugin for your website every single day that's coming out, and a gazillion people are promoting it. It's hard to make your way through the noise and to figure out what works for you. And you brought up something really important. Let's talk a little bit about this. And that was the whole idea that, somebody who calls themselves a coach. There are so many people out there that are coaches, and just by the nature, and I'm talking with my hands again, just by the nature of the beast, that they woke up maybe one morning and said, I'm a coach and I'm going to work with people. And maybe they're very good at what they do, but they're not going to be good for everyone. And you have to find somebody that you resonate with and that is not going to take you from feeling authentic and being who you are into, as you just talked about, this client who became a client, doing something that was so totally against who she was. How do you find a coach, and how do you know that you're with the right coach rather than sticking with somebody that you think is supposed to be helping you, but they're not? How do you find the right coach?
I love that question, though. This is kind of my soapbox, and I know we don't have time for me to be on a soapbox, so I'm going to try and
go ahead,
calm myself down. Using the example that I shared earlier, the person that my client had hired was not a bad person.
Right.
In fact, she had gotten a lot of really great results for other people. The problem was within her style and how it didn't match my client,
right,
and how she approached things. So there are some people that call themselves coaches that are really, in my opinion, more trainers. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is they've found a certain way to run their business, and they teach you that one certain way.
Right.
That to me is a trainer more than it is a coach. To me, a coach is somebody that says, okay, what is it that you want to do, and how are we going to help you get there? Right. Versus, this is what I did to be successful. Now, it's also important to work with somebody that has had some level of success, so that they can share their stories. If there's things that relate, it's always good for them to be able to say, well, you might want to consider this because of A, B, and C.
Right.
So it's not cut and dry. But what I would suggest as you're looking to hire somebody to support you, if it's somebody that's going to be in a coach, mentor type relationship, is look deeper than their sales page. Look at what type of lifestyle do they have. I mean, one of the biggest disconnects that my client and her former coach had was that her former coach didn't have children, traveled all the time, lived an extremely high intensity lifestyle. My client, on the other hand, was married, had a son that she absolutely adored, young, in elementary school, and wanted to spend time with him. So just in that, really bare bones comparison, it's not the same. It was a total. So all of these things that this other coach was telling her to do, they weren't bad suggestions. They would have gotten her to where she wanted, except for the fact that it would have also taken her away from her son.
Right.
And her son was one of her number one priorities. I mentioned that I worked a few different programs with her. Her husband had actually been one of my biggest detractors when she first wanted to hire me. He's like, not another coach. You just don't do it. Right. But she decided to do it anyway.
Yeah.
He ended up calling me and saying, thank you for giving me my wife back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great testimonial. That is a great testimonial.
Yeah, it was big for me. And she had built a stronger relationship with her son because we were able to build a business model that matched what she was looking for. And so the point here to this is that when you are looking at the gurus, the coaches, the advisors, the mentors, whatever they call themselves, if they are the type of information provider that they are saying, here's how I got successful and you can get successful too, make sure that their style of life and what they are choosing to do and how they're choosing to live matches somewhat to what you want. Because otherwise their advice probably isn't going to be in alignment with you.
That is such great advice. That is
such
great advice.
And there are a lot of other coaches that are like me, where, I'm not trying to create a mini me.
Right.
I'm trying to help you be the best version of you. So in that instance, who I am and how I want to live my life doesn't have as strong of a bearing.
Right.
Because I'm looking at your life and we're going to develop and devise a plan to help you get to where you want to go.
Exactly. And and as I'm listening to you, and I'm going to use the word listen, because that actually is one of the skill sets that I think a lot of coaches are missing. And it's kind of going to where you're talking. They're not listening. They're not watching. They're not finding out about who their client is so that they can give them advice and they can help them reach their goals, not, as you said, the coach's own, however they're doing what they're doing. So how important is listening in this whole thing that we're talking about? How important is listening?
I love all the questions you're asking me here, Caren. I really do. You're asking some really good ones that a lot of people don't think about. Listening is paramount.
Right.
I would say that in the course of my work, when I'm doing my one-on-one conversations with my clients actually talk more than I do. My role is to help them hear themselves. Mm-hmm. And there are instances, and one of the reasons that I decided not to call myself a coach or a consultant or a trainer, or I said catalyst, and I did that very intentionally, mm-hmm. because I employ all those different methodologies. Right. There are instances,
and you affect change.
Right, exactly. But listening is a really critical skill, I would imagine, for anybody that's in a service industry. And really, even if you're selling widgets, listening is really critical, because once you understand the problems that your client, your customer, your patient, whatever you happen to call them, once you understand, really understand, and you can't understand unless you listen. Once you really understand what's going on, then you can help. And you can help in a powerful way.
Well, exactly. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head, and you did, because you need to find the problems and solve that problem. You can have the best widget in the world that does whatever it does, but if that's not a problem that people have, they're not going to buy your widget. And it's so whether you're in sales, whether you are a trainer, a coach, a teacher, an entertainer, what is it that you are actually solving? What is the problem that you're solving? Do you even know what your prospective clients have problems with? Right? And so it goes both ways.
It absolutely does. And when you're talking in the sales conversation, listening in that conversation is like one of the most important things that you can do, because people want to be understood. Mm-hmm. People want to be understood more than they want to buy your stuff.
That's right.
But if you are good at listening, and my definition of being good at listening is being quiet, hearing the words, and then paraphrasing it back. So what I heard you say was this, and this. Did I get that right?
Right.
So it's not just, yeah, I heard you. Okay, now let me sell you something.
Well, have you ever noticed when you talk to people, some of them you can hear their head is ticking because they're already thinking what they're going to say even before the person that they're actually talking to has finished talking. You can literally see their head spinning because, okay, I'm getting ready to talk. They haven't listened. They have not listened, and there's a big difference between hearing and listening. And so we are so much on the same wavelength on this one. We talked before we went live today and talk about the quotes. I love quotes. You said you've been collecting quotes since you were how old?
5th grade. I think that's 10.
Yeah. So you got me beat. You totally have me beat on that. But I love quotes, and what I like about quotes is sometimes, well, every morning I go and I scroll through social media looking to see what's out there and what people have said and what's resonating with me in the moment. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they are motivational, and sometimes they are very impactful. And today's quote is, and this is from Travis McAshin. He's an entrepreneur and web strategist, and he says, "Purpose may point you in the right direction, but it's passion that propels you." I love that quote. I think, I love it. So do you have, I know that you just said you've been collecting quotes since you were in 5th grade. What's a quote right now that you can share with our viewers that resonates with you?
So I'm going to read it because I never quote it totally correctly if I don't read it. So I'm going to read it right here. And this is actually what I have on the cover of my Facebook profile right now.
Okay.
It says, "It takes a lot of courage to release the familiar and seemingly secure, to embrace the new. But there is no real security in what is no longer meaningful. There is more security in the adventurous and exciting, for in movement there is life, and in change there is power." And that's by Alan Cohen.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I know our viewers are watching right now, and they are listening to the profound words that you are saying, and yet they're so simple because it is truth. It is truth what you're saying. I am sure they want to find out how they can connect with you, where they can go to find out more, and possibly start working with you. So where are we going to send them?
The really simple way to do that is to go to stephaniecalahan.com, and Calahan is spelled with one L. A lot of people question that. And on my site, I have a blog. I share all of the interviews that I'm on. So if you want to dive in and watch different shows, they're there as well. I'm also very prolific and found everywhere on social media. Like Caren said, we met there. Connect with me. I am not one of those people that hires somebody else to be my voice. If you're talking to me, it's really me, right. And I really am interested. If you've listened to this interview and you'd like to talk a little bit more about working with the head and heart or how to get to where you want to go, then I strongly encourage you, click the contact button on my page and just send me a message. We can set up a time to chat, and like I said, the conversations that I have are really more about listening. And if it's a good fit, if it makes sense for us to work together, then we explore that. If not, then I share my suggestions based on whatever it is that we're talking about in that phone call. And we both go on with our day a little better off because we've talked. So I'd love the opportunity to do that if you feel so moved as well.
And we'll have the link right below. Just go look down into the show notes and go ahead and click on the link and visit Stephanie where she lives on her page at stephaniecalahan.com, 1L. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with our audience before we say goodbye?
I think my last thoughts for you, especially since this show is about passion, right? There are so many people that even when they're owning their own business are holding themselves back because they're existing rather than living. I want to encourage you to live. I want to encourage you to put a business model in place that allows you to have laughter and joy every single day. And I can tell you, I lived a life where that wasn't the case, and I'm now living a life where it is, and it's so much better on this side. And if I can do it,
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. So I want to encourage you to look for those opportunities.
Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for being on with us today. And I'd love
Thank
to invite
you.
you back at a later date to
Oh,
continue this
sure.
conversation. I really love where we went today in this conversation. It's so important. And I want to encourage our viewers to check Stephanie out. And we want to thank you. We know that you have a choice as to where you spend your time. We know that there are so many things going on in our lives every single minute of the day. And I want to thank you. We want to thank you for spending some of your time with us today. So as we say all the time, have a great day. Give somebody else a great day. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of The Passion Point. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.